Greetings, blade fans. I'm back with yet another CRKT, Columbia River Knife and Tool. Oh, those acronyms again. This is a very large tactical combat battle designed folder by James Williams, very well-known Japanese sword instructor, aficionado, as well as a veteran of the martial arts and a tactical defense instructor, special forces, law enforcement communities instructor, etc., etc. So basically this came out of, and this I'm reading from the Cricket webpage. So when SOCOM needed a larger, thinner folding combat knife that was easy to carry and conceal, Williams answered the call. So this is the Otanashi Noh Ken. And it is done in the Osoraku blade style, made famous by the 17th century samurai warlord Takeda Shingen. It is efficient and effective. And somewhere here we have the meaning of Otanashi Noh Ken. I believe it has something to do with a silent blade, or blade that can't be seen or is not obvious. So in this case, with the deep carry and the black finish, I think they've achieved that. So interesting that Cricket advertises this as more than a knife, it's a threat extinguisher. Okay, so enough reading. Let's take a look at it. I had one of these ages ago. It's been out for a long time, at least I think 8 years as of 2022, maybe coming up on 9 years. It is an exceedingly large folder with a 4.5-inch blade. I'm going to give you all the specs in a moment, straight off the Cricket page. We are not going to pull out the rulers or the tape measures or the scales for this one, so I can get through the specs and show you a little bit more about the knife. So it is branded quite significantly and heavily, as we've seen from a lot of Cricket knives. Maybe they've cut back on that a bit lately. It's obviously, if you want to know the name of it, it's right there. And although it's considered to be a discreet and deep carry knife, they have seen to putting some nice white letters on the clip. So that doesn't seem to keep a lot of people from buying this and giving it high grades. When I look out at some of the stores online and you look at the reviews for this knife, it gets almost completely 100% stellar reviews, and I'm not disputing that. It has the locks, double lock for the frame lock, and it is a frame lock. So when that occurs, and I'm not sure you can see it because we've got so much black on black here, and it's a little too much light. See if I can ramp that down a little bit. All right, well, got it to about where I need it. You should be able to see this, that one little piece of metal that swings in and over the frame lock. And there, now it's out of the way. And that is what blocks this from moving. So when I engage it, I cannot budge that frame lock out of the way, and it's quite solid. So no lock rock, no blade play, and it is running on washers. On one side there is a bronze washer, on the other side there's a nylon washer. Not only that, but we have a double washers, and I've had this disassembled. We've had double washers under this disc that supports the lock's lock. It's a little gritty, but I'm glad it doesn't move too easily because I don't want it to engage accidentally or disengage accidentally. We've got G10 for the handle, heavily textured. We've got the typical Williams handle design, which is gleaned from the Japanese style samurai sword, katana, wakizashi, and tanto, being very rectangular and squared off with just one little finger groove, which works well. Heavy jimping on the back of the frame. That's a steel frame, not aluminum, therefore it's going to be heavy. And it is thumb disc opening with a push and a little bit of a wrist flick, and I don't have a lot of room here. Let me see if I can create a little more room. So easy to give it just a little bit of wrist and open it, or easily roll it open if you don't want to make a whole lot of noise. It's very slim. It is a switchable deep carry clip since it's attached on the pommel. And it does go in and out of the pocket quite smoothly, at least on the steel side. Once you switch it over to the G10 side, that may not be the case. So let's do some quick specs, just reading them right off the sheet from Cricket. And when you see this video, I will also have those stats coming up on the screen. All right, so the steel is AUS 8. Get that out of the way right away. Not a high-end steel, and this will still cost you about $115 out on White Mountain, on Knife Center, and a bunch of other places that are still carrying it. The blade length is 4.52 inches. The blade thickness is 4 millimeters, 4.06 millimeters to be exact. The overall length is 10.13 inches. The handle is G10. And let's see, the closed length is 5.61 inches, and it weighs 6.40 ounces. But you're not going to feel that a lot because it lies very flat in the pocket. In one measurement they're missing that we'll take right now is the handle thickness. And you can see that it's only 0.43 inches. We're going to try that again. 0.43, yes. So well under a ½ inch. So lies very flat against the leg when it's in the pocket or wherever else you may want to carry it. It's not going to be a fidgety knife. I've tried and tried and tried adjusting it and oiling it up, and it's probably going to break in over time, but it's easy to open, and a couple of shakes and it's closed, or simply use the thumb. But again, it's not going to be your flipper, fidgety, on bearings kind of action. It is on washers, and part of the advantage in putting a knife on washers that's going to see some hard use is that the blade is a little more stable. It rides closer to the handles and the frame, less space in there, and there's less blade play or chance for blade play. Although I haven't gotten a lot out of folders that have washers, I should say, bearings. There is a much smaller version of this that I've had for a while. And it is an assisted knife, but it can be de-assisted. It's the Hisatsu 2. So if you want to see a micro miniature version of this same knife, there you go. Good deal more pocketable. Still a deep carry clip. Excuse me. Still a switchable deep carry clip. And as you can see, that's only about as wide as my hand on that handle. That's the Hisatsu. For comparison, I happen to have this big guy from Kershaw. And it is the Strata XL. You can see that although the Otanashi Noh Ken is a large knife, the Strata is much larger. So if you've got a Strata, there's your comparison. And that's a drop shutty knife because that's a flipper on bearings. But still a handful of a knife. See if I can back out a little bit again. As you can see, that's what I got left over in my medium-large paws. You can lie your thumb out on top of the opening disc, no problem. Even though there's no jimping on the blade, this almost acts like a little bit of jimping because it you do catch a little bit of the edge of that disc. It's kind of a squared off sort of a disc, so it's not completely round, but that's how it locks in with that one screw to the top of the spine of the blade. This is going to work well in just about any position because it's such a neutral handle. There are smaller versions of this knife. This is the largest one in the series. You can find some of the other ones out there if you just do CRKT Williams search, or even if you pull up this knife, the Otanashi Noh Ken, you will find some of the medium-sized knives. I believe they have one that breaks down with that fast takedown method that Cricket has devised as well. So as a so-called threat extinguisher, this knife was designed mainly to pierce and penetrate. It might even be able to get through some tactical armor. Many knives can, simply because they're kind of pushing between the threads and cutting them, whereas a bullet is going to be a blunt impact and tends to stretch and then spread out on contact with Kevlar and stuff like that. One thing about the edge, I started working on this a little bit here with a diamond hone. Came through feeling kind of sharp. I mean, you can feel some drag there across the edge, but at the risk of cutting my finger, I'm going to show you that I'm sliding my finger on that forward part of the grind and nothing. So this is going to be a candidate for the KME. James Williams says you can thrust and cut with this, but as it comes out of the box, at least this particular copy, I think it needs a little bit of work. Looking at the edge geometry, I think this geometry was about style and giving you what is normally going to be in a larger fixed blade knife a little more prominently. You do have a very narrow tip, gradually broadening out to that point, and then a straight edge there. If you do your run-of-the-mill sharpening on this, that point there, that secondary bevel or point where the two planes join, is just going to disappear. And maybe that's one way to sharpen it. Just ignore it and go right over it. I'm probably going to try to keep the edge geometry, work this plane separately, and then work on that front belly of the blade. Either way, certainly a piercer. That you can't get around. It's going to be a thrusting, piercing kind of a blade. And, you know, at least in the Filipino martial arts, as I was taught, knives are primarily for piercing in a tactical role, and secondarily really for cutting. Your larger weapons, your swords, your bowies, and things like that, those are the ones that have the cutting power. But I think, as we've seen in designs like the Yojimbo 2 and the Ojumbo, people like Michael Janich, when they've designed these blades, have certainly mastered the ability to cut, and cut well and deeply with shorter blades. 3.5-inch blade on the Yojimbo 2, but it's a Wharncliffe. Anyway, we won't get too into that. Let's do a quick compare before we go with the Griptilian. You can see we've got a much, much larger knife in the Griptilian. And summing up the Rat 1, and we can show you that we've got even a much, much longer blade overall than the Rat 1. So that is the Otanashi Noh Ken, designed by James Williams and built by Columbia River Knife and Tool. Hope you enjoyed this overview, survey, review of this knife. And don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care.